All right, so BDO doesn't really care if you waste your time, right? In fact, it kind of actually expects you to. And if you don't know kind of what you're doing early on, it is easy to waste like important materials or maybe like chasing the wrong gear or maybe even just like grinding in the wrong spot. So I'm just going to kind of go over a few pieces of advice that I wish someone would have told me if I was to play BDO as a beginner. All right, so let's talk about gear. Gear, right? This game is kind of centered around gear, so it's important to kind of talk about it, discuss it. Now, I do plan on doing like a specific gear and enhancing guide probably like once the new armors and sub weapon comes out. But I do want to go over just kind of the basics and highlights of the gear, especially for newer players, right? So, if you happen to be starting Black Stars Online, you want to make sure that you have a kind of a decent grasp on this, right? So once you get into BDO, you're going to want to make sure that like on the character select screen that you pick a seasoned character, right? Because these servers are really important for like new and returning players just to accelerate that progression of your character, such as leveling and getting gear, right? And make sure you do the season pass, which even in order for you to graduate from that season, you have to complete it anyway, right? You're also only limited to one season character, but if you do happen to delete that character, right? If you do happen to delete the season character that you made, you can still create another one. But I will say it's just kind of more of a headache, right? So once you pick the class, you might want to stick with it. But if for some reason you just can't, you can delete it and remake another one. Once you get into the game, right, you're just gonna follow the main storyline, and that's really important, right? And that's kind of another important piece of advice that I'll give you. But you want to make sure that you do the main storyline all the way up to, I believe it's like Medaya, and that's gonna unlock a good portion of important things for your character, right? Just like the Magnus quest line, right? And when you unlock that, then you can complete that quest line and you'll get a free piece of pin gear. So, which I'll talk about that here in a second, okay? But as you're progressing through the story, you're going to be getting Naru gear and beginner Blackstones, right? So you're going to be getting the Naru gear and the weapons and beginner Blackstones, and you're going to use those specific Blackstones to enhance the armors and the weapons, okay? Which the gear, all right, so the gear, which in my ultimate beginner guide, I didn't really explain the levels, and a lot of people kind of commented on that. So the gear starts at 0, okay? And it's going to go all the way from 0 to +1 to +2 to +3, all the way up to +15, all right? And then once you get to +15, you're then going to go ahead and enhance it all the way to pin, right? So you have +15, and then it's going to go to pry, and then duo, and then try, and then tet, and then to pin. And with the Naru gear and armor, it's with armors and weapons, it's really easy to enhance, right? So you don't really have to worry about using fail stacks, okay? But once you get this gear, right? So once you get this gear all the way to pin, you're then going to exchange the Naru gear for pry to Vala gear and weapons, right? And you'll do that like once you hit pin with Naru, you'll see the black spirit kind of pop up, and it's like, oh, do you want to exchange this for a pry to Vala? And that's what you're going to do, okay? And then you're going to go from a pry to Vala all the way to a pin to Vala, right? So pry, duo, try, tet, pin. And that's going to be a little bit more difficult, but as long as you're in that season server, you're going to be getting these enhancing resources known as the time-filled Blackstones in that specific season server. So you have to be in that season server in order to get those specific stones. If you're on a regular server, which you can take your season character to a regular server. However, you won't get those stones. So you got to make sure you're on the season server to get the time-filled Blackstones, okay? And with those stones, right, you can use to enhance the Tuvala gear, or you can use those stones to buy the same gear to repair the gear, right? Because as you're enhancing the Tuvala gear, gear, armors, weapons is going to decrease, right? So the durability is going to decrease, and you're going to have to essentially use that same gear to repair it, right? And you can use those time-filled blackstones to buy the same gear to then go to the blacksmith to repair it, okay? You can also use those time-filled blackstones to buy fail stacks, which I mentioned a little bit earlier. So the fail stacks are going to help to improve the chance of your gear succeeding, right? So if you're enhancing a piece of gear with no fail stacks, then the chance of the enhancement succeeding is going to be much, much lower than, say, if you have like, say, 50 fail stacks, right? So that percentage is going to be much, much different. So those fail stacks are there to kind of help you finally achieve that enhancement. So fail stacks are really important, and you're going to use those to enhance the gear, like the Tuvala gear. And with Tuvala, it's going to be fairly easy, right? You're just kind of dipping your toes into the system, right? The season server is just trying to get you acclimated with what you're going to be doing for the rest of the game, and it's much easier process at the very beginning, and then it becomes more difficult and having to use higher fail stacks. But you can go to I believe it's Fugar to buy the fail stacks, or you can go to a blacksmith in one of the towns or cities to buy the same gear to repair that gear. Okay. Now, once you graduate the season server, you won't have that option anymore. So really, really important to get your Tuvala gear right all the way to pin before you graduate. And you want to make sure that, again, you use those time-filled blackstones to either buy fail stacks or to buy the same gear to repair your gear. You can also use those time-filled blackstones to buy Tuvala accessories, which the accessories are a little bit more of a pain to enhance because both accessories will blow up. And while you're enhancing, it should show you like the recommended like fail stack most people use for those enhancements, so you can just kind of follow that. But again, once you get to pin Tuvala, that's when you'll graduate the server, and then you'll just do a quest to convert the pin Tuvala gear to Tet boss armors. Okay, and then you can do the Jatina quest line to get 2 pin boss armors. All right, and then you can do, as I mentioned earlier, the Magnus quest line, which you pretty much have to complete a portion of the main story to unlock it. But once you unlock it, you'll complete the Magnus quest line, and then you'll get a free pin armor, which I probably would maybe just get like the dim spirit. I'll show you the gear here in a second as well, in game and through a gear planner. And then the 4th piece, you can either try to enhance it to pin yourself, or you can just buy it off the market. All right. So once you get pin boss armors, you're going to have to put Caphras into that gear, right? So you're going to need to get Caphra level 10, and you have to use a specific flame to convert that pin boss armor into a slumbering origin armor, which is like, it's like on the screen, it'll be like a red piece of gear. Okay. And currently that was the pretty much in-game piece of armor. Now, when the new region drops here in August, it's going to be, I guess it's going to be purple grade. So now there's going to be a new piece of in-game armor. And for that system, so you'll have to get that slumbering origin armor to a Tet version, and you have to use another resource from the new region in order to get the new in-game gear. But that's really far away. Okay, so just trying to kind of show you the gear progression. And then with the like weapons, right? So go into the weapons now, right? You can claim a free black star main hand in your reward tab. Okay. And then you're going to get a pin awakening Tuvala weapon. All right. So a pin awakening Tuvala weapon, and you're going to want to get that pin to a deck or 10 version, which then that can be converted to a pin awakening black star. Now that's going to cost money, probably 20 to 30 billion, roughly. That's how much it's going to cost to get that pin awakening black star. So it's technically not free, but it's much easier than if you try to enhance it or buy it off the market, right? So that's kind of the route you want to go there. And then you should also get another black star weapon through the reward tab as well, and that will be a Tet version. Okay, and you can choose the offhand version for that, or you could do another like main hand or awakening and try to tap that to a pin, because eventually you're going to need 2 pin black stars in order to convert that to the end game weapons known as sovereign weapons. All right, so hopefully you're still kind of with me, right? This is a lot. It's kind of confusing. Could be overwhelming. Again, I'm going to show you a kind of a gear planner of what all this is going to look like. And then for the accessories, with one of those, I would probably recommend getting your, so you can take the pin Tuvala necklace and you can take that to a deck or a 10 version, which then that can be exchanged for a Tet Carousel accessory. And the Carousel accessories are going to be the best in slot accessories. All right. And essentially going back to being able to go from from Tuvala, from a pin to a deck, you're going to do that once you graduate the season. All right. So once you get full pin Tuvala, everything, you'll graduate the season, and then you can slowly work on getting one of the weapons to a deck Tuvala and the accessory to a deck version as well. Okay, so you'll do that after you graduate the season server. All right, and then once you graduate the season server, you'll have the option to choose a pin Caposha accessory, which I probably would pick the ring. All right, and you should be able to also get a few other like free pin Caposha accessories by either like completing a few more season characters, or you can go to the rewards tab and I think you get like a tri Caposha already for like leveling up to a specific range, and then you'll get resources that you can put into that tri Caposha to get that to a pin. All right, but either way, I would aim for like 2 pin Caposha rings, and like the other one you can do like a belt, a pin Caposha belt, and you should be at a pretty good point. Right. And again, I know this is confusing. It's overwhelming. This is kind of one of the main systems in the game is pretty much chasing that gear. Right. So let me show you here in game first, kind of the different armors, and then I'll show you the gear planner as well. So let me go in game here. All right. Let me go to the central marketplace. Let's go to the armors. All right, so I can't unfortunately show you the Tuvala gear because you can't sell it on the marketplace, but I'll show you kind of the armors that you'll get once you convert from the pin to the Tet. All right, and so here is so this is the boss armor, right? You could get either or. I think most people will pick this one here because it gives you plus 100 HP. Doesn't really matter too much. You're going to get one of these once you convert the pin version. Sorry, you'll get a Tet version of this, right? So you can see the levels, all right? 0 to 5, all the way up to plus 15, and then it's going to be a Pride, Duo, Tri, Tet, Pin. But once you convert it, you'll get a Tet version, all right? So that's the headpiece. And then you can see, so once you get this to a pin, all right, once you get this to pin and you put Khafra's in this, once you get this to Khafra level 10, then you'll put a flame, and then you'll get this, the Labresca helmet. All right, so this is right now, currently in July, this is the in-game gear piece. Okay, come August, this will not be in-game gear piece anymore. But this is the goal currently. Okay, we'll go to armor. Okay, Again, red nose or dim tree. That's what you're going to get. Most people will get the dim tree. And you'll get a TET version of the dim tree. You're going to get this to a pin. All right. And then you're going to get this to Kaffir level 10 at a pin version. And then you're going to get a specific flame, and then it's going to convert into the Fallen God armor. All right. So currently this is the in-game gear piece. All right. Gloves. So bags or levers here, right? And so you're going to get a TET version of one of these. You're going to get it to pin. You're going to get a specific flame, and then you're going to convert it to either one of these two. So one's going to have more evasion, and the other one's going to have kind of more damage reduction. All right. And then, yeah. And again, this is going to be the in-game gear piece currently. All right. And then the shoes. So you're going to get one of these. You're going to get this to pin. You're going to get this to Kaffir level 10. Get a specific flame. And then you're going to get one of these shoes. And again, it's going to vary based on either one's going to have more evasion, one's going to have more damage reduction. But either or, this is going to be the in-game gear piece currently until the new armors come out. So that's going to be the armors. And then for the weapons, right? So you can't buy a sovereign weapon on the marketplace. All right. The highest you can buy is going to be either the Black Star, okay, pin version, which you need two of these. You need two of these in order to convert it into a sovereign weapon, which is going to be that in-game gear piece, okay? Or alternatively, you could get this one to a pin as well. All right? This one here is pretty much like the Black Star, but this gives you more increments. So it's easier to kind of enhance, and you get kind of more stats at a slower rate compared to like the Black Star. All right, so that's kind of the gear pieces and the armor pieces. So let me kind of show you the gear planner here real quick. All right, so before we go over the gear planner, there's a few other things I want to show you here in game real quick. So the flames that I was telling you about, I feel like I should show you what flames that you need to get. So once you get your pin boss gear to Kaffir level 10, you're going to add a flame, okay? So you can see here, this flame is going to be for the Ator shoes, all right? And it also shows you where you can get these at as well, right? So down at the bottom is how to obtain. You can get this by grinding certain monsters. So if you don't want to buy it, you can actually grind for it, right? So you can go to Darkseeker's Retreat or Highlands, and so you can, at the grind spot, you can get the actual raw drop, which is the flame, or you get embers. And you can see down below, if you get 100 embers, you can turn that into a flame. All right. So on the marketplace, you can buy the flame or you can buy the embers, either or. But if we move down, so that's for the shoes. This one right here is for the helmet. Okay. So again, it's going to show you where you have to grind for it. Then if we move down right here, this is going to be for the armor, right? So the Fallen God chest armor. Again, it's going to show you where you can grind for it. And you can actually kind of see the price difference too. So the flame here is much cheaper, 850 million. And then if we go down here, this one's 645 million, right? So you can see these two are pretty easy. Obviously, this one is more difficult because it requires you to grind at a higher grind spot. So not that many people can actually grind for this one. So the supply is lower, but the demand is much higher. Okay. But yeah, that's pretty much the 4 flames right here. And then the accessories, I don't want to go into too much detail with the accessories because I want to save that for a detailed guide at a later date. But I do want to show you just a few things. So if we go to accessories, the biggest part I want to talk about is the Deboreka accessory. All right, so you can see right here, this accessory is going to be really important. Don't pay too much attention to this one. This is for life skilling. All right. This one is for life skilling, not for like combat. All right. But this is going to be kind of your main accessory. And the important thing with this accessory is so you don't have to get this. All right. You can just go ahead and just get a Karasad accessory right off the bat and enhance it from there. However, if you want to just strictly try to buy it from the marketplace or obtain it without really having to enhance it, you could actually buy either a Tet version of the Deboreka ring or a pin version of the Deboreka. And it doesn't have to be ring, right? You have the necklace, earring, and the belt. But essentially, with the Deboreka accessory in general, if you buy a Tet version or if you enhance it to a Tet version, you can actually exchange this for a pin version of the Karasad. Or if you somehow get a pin version, you can actually exchange this for a Nove version of the Karasad. So that's an alternative way. If you just like hate enhancing and you want to just buy it off the marketplace, quote unquote, you can actually buy either a Tet and exchange it for the in-game accessory, or you can save up for a lot of money and buy the pin version and exchange it that way. So I just wanted to kind of show you that real quick. But now let's get into the gear planner. All right, so gear planner, this is a great resource, garmoff.com. So let's go over these ultra quick. All right, so we have at the very beginning, we have the Naru gear that I was telling you about while you're in the season server. Again, these are really easy to enhance. So you're going to get all of these, or at least the armors and the weapons, to pin. All right, you can, if you want to, get the accessories to the try version. Not that big of a deal. The main focus is going to be the armors and the weapons. All right, so once you get this to pin, all of these right here to pin, that is going to be converted into the next stage here. All right, so you're going to convert that into the helmet, right? So you're gonna be getting a pry, right? So this is gonna be a pry. All right, and you're going to enhance that pry all the way to a pin. All right, the accessories, so the Tuvala accessories, you're gonna buy that from the blacksmith using those time-filled blackstones. Okay. And you're going to get the Tuvala accessories to a pin version. All right. Okay. Also, while we're here, when I was telling you about getting to a deck, right? So you can get one of the weapons to a deck version. All right. So I just chose the awakening weapon here, and I chose the necklace. That's probably what I would do. Okay. So once you graduate the season server, then you can get these to a deck version. And then now we're going to go to the next stage here. So now you converted the pin Tuvala, all right, to a Tet boss armor, right? So we have the Griffin's helmet here, the red nose, and I would probably do like the Dimtree. This one here could probably do, right? At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter too much because these are going to be converted to the other pieces. But yeah, this is probably what I would go for. All right, so they're all going to be converted, and you can see here. So now I have the 2 pin Kaposha rings, right? And this right here is pretty much equivalent to the Ring of Crescent at a Tet version. So that's pretty good. That's really good. Have the belt as well. I went ahead and converted the necklace, right? So the the deck necklace, Tuvala necklace, to the Tet Karasad necklace. All right. And I went ahead and got my free main hand. I converted the deck version of the awakening weapon to the pin, and then I chose the offhand version of the Tet for that other free black star. All right, so this is kind of where we're at currently. You can also kind of be working towards your artifacts as well. You can see it gives you a pretty good amount of stats, right? Plus 100, plus 20 damage reduction. That's going to help you be a little bit more tankier in some of the grinding spots. It's going to give you some more AP against monsters and give you some stamina as well. And I believe, let's look here real quick. If we go to the central marketplace and we look at the price, I think they're like maybe sitting at 4 or 5. Okay, 6 billion here. So they've been going up a little bit in the price. They were sitting down in the 5 range. I think there might be just newer players coming into the game, so it's kind of spiking back up. But you'll want to eventually get these. There's really no like set time frame when you should get these, but at some point you're going to want to try to work towards that. Let's see here. Okay, so yeah, that's the next stage. And then next one here. All right. So now what we've done is we've put Kaffir level 10 on each of the pin boss gear. All right. And you can see how much of a difference the Kaffir levels make. Because all I did, so you can see our DPs at 311. All I did to increase from 311 to 372 is by just pretty much putting Kaffir levels into each piece, right? So it's going to give you a lot of DP. That's going to make you a little bit more tankier so you can go to other grind spots. Because we already get so much AP, I feel like now players are being more limited by their DP. All right. And then you can see here too, we now have the Tri-Karasad earrings. Okay. We have 2 pin crescent rings, and you can actually do the Jatina quest line to get essentially 2 pin accessories fairly easy. Also have the Tri-Belt, Karasad belt. Also with the pin crescent rings, you can actually melt this down to get resources to make the Karasads. So really nice. I also went ahead and got the Vel's Heart. All right, you can see that's going to give you plus 3 AP. And at some point, you can also upgrade this as well to give you 3 AP and 4 DP, so even more stats. But we'll keep it at the base version. But this is going to be really nice to help with that grinding speed, because it's going to give you plus 5% attack speed, which is huge. All right. Moving down to the next stage. So now we converted the boss armors to the in-game gear pieces here, right? So the helmet, the Labresca, the Fallen God, Don's gloves, and the Ator shoes. And I got these to try. Okay. And then we now enhanced these from a try to a pin version. We exchanged the pin crescent rings to make and get it to a pin Karasad ring. And now we have this at pin level as well. We have a pin offhand Black Star. We have a pin belt. And then we got 2 pin Black Stars and got the in-game Sovereign weapon and got that to pin as well. So you can see a pretty big jump from here to here. I think getting to like 650 gear score is fairly easy for the most part. Might take you maybe a month, a couple months. But going from this stage, so going from this stage to this stage, it's going to take you much, much longer. And then, of course, we have pretty much in-game, right? So now we have deck for most of everything. Okay, deck. And of course, when the new sovereign weapon comes out, that will take the place of that. And then, of course, the armors too, right? So we'll be converting these Tet armors for the new in-game gear that will be coming out in August. So hopefully that helped a little bit. It's, at the end of the day, you got to treat this game as a marathon and not as a sprint, right? So just one day at a time, and you'll eventually get there. Like I said, I think getting to 650 gear score to this stage is fairly easy. After this becomes a little bit more difficult. So next piece of advice is don't fall into the trap of chasing meta classes, right? Just because they might be like on a top of a PvP or PvE tier list, right? I've seen so many people start with a class that they hate playing just because they heard it was really good at grinding or was really good like in like PvP, or had maybe like the lowest APM, or whatever it may be, right? And then 2 weeks later, they can't really stand the class and they have to re-roll anyway. The truth is, every class in this game can grind. Every class can do PvE. Most can hold their own in PvP. Now, granted, there are definitely some classes that are just better, either PvP or PvE. But, I would say just kind of starting out, you really just want to pick a class that you think you're going to really enjoy. Because if you don't like the class on like how it feels, or if you just don't like the animations, or maybe just the movement, then it actually may be just hard for you just to get into the game, since combat is one of the biggest reasons to play this game, right? So just pick something that feels really good kind of in your hands. If you like super fast classes, maybe try like Musa or Awakening Nova. If you kind of like those just bigger, meatier classes, maybe go like Warrior or Guardian. If you like range classes, maybe check out Ranger or like Archer. The biggest thing is just don't overthink it, right? You can always like tag another class later, or just swap gear around, or make a whole nother season character, whatever it may be, because really nothing's permanent. And I actually personally made that mistake when I mained Awakening Striker for a few years just for the PvP. Like, Awakening Striker is insane for PvP, but just me personally, I really can't stand the movement of Awakening Striker. Like, it's very just like one direction. And yeah, it just didn't really feel good necessarily like when I played it. And now granted, it's a good class. It's a really good class, especially for PvP and PvE. I just don't really care for like the movement and even like the weapons. It's just, I don't know, it's not really me. But when I pretty much switched and tried like other classes, like I just had a lot more fun. So yeah, I think the biggest thing is just remember, BDO is just grindy by nature, right? So you're going to want to make sure you pick a class that you're going to enjoy playing for hundreds or thousands of hours. So you want to make sure that you don't hate it, right? You can also do like trial characters, like at the beginning of the character select screen, to like try out the class as well. I think the next piece of advice here is really undervalued and can really change how you play and enjoy BDO, which is joining a guild and just being a part of the community, right? So join one early, even if you don't think you're really ready for it, even if you're like brand new, doesn't really matter, because the right guild can seriously make this game 10 times better. And on top of that, you'll get like buffs and daily payouts. You'll get like boss parties and just people who will hopefully just help you out. And, you don't have to be some hardcore player, right? There are plenty of like casual or life skill or PvE focused or PvP focused guilds, right? There's a lot of new beginner guilds as well, right? And you can just pretty much hang out, interact as much as you want. And honestly, even if you just want to play solo, being in a guild is still worth it, because it gives you a lot of passive perks like increased AP, accuracy, and just other stats. So it can add up pretty quickly. All right, next piece of advice here is you don't have to do everything in BDO, right? And this is a big one. BDO throws 1,000,001 systems at you: PvP, PvE, life skills such as sailing, bartering, cooking, hunting, gathering, alchemy, horse training, plenty of others. And then you have like the node empire, the worker management, enhancing, guild activities. Like, bro, it's a lot. It's a lot, and it's easy to feel like you're falling behind because you're not doing every single piece of content. I'd say the smartest thing for you to do is just pick something and just stick with it for a while. All right, so here's another good one to talk about. Grinding is king, but not all spots are equal. Now, granted, I do think it's important to try out multiple different grind spots, but you will realize that a lot of the grind spots in BDO are just kind of outdated or just not really worth your effort. And, you may think as you're going to these spots like, oh, it's super chill. The mobs die pretty quickly. The money is probably pretty good. But at the end of the day, the money really comes from kind of the high value trash loot and the rare items. And a really good resource to look at different grind spots and like the potential money per hour is garmoth.com, which I used that earlier to do the gear planner. But I will say the numbers tend to be not the most accurate, but it's still a really good resource to kind of look at. Also, you want to make sure that you unlock Agris, because that will increase the amount of loot that you can obtain from the mobs for kind of a short period of time while you're grinding. But if we pull up Garmoth here real quick and we look here, so if we go to like the global grind, I should have hit saved. Oh well. And you can see the different grind spots, right? And you can even like change the drop rate percent. You can add Agris in, right? So you can see it increases the drop amount by 150%. It's pretty significant. If we take Agris off though, you can see kind of the different grind spots. So like Darkseeker's Retreat, that's known as like one of the top ones for in-game players currently. And they're reporting 1.7 billion an hour. Tungrad Ruins, right? And as we kind of go down a little bit lower, the numbers are obviously going to get much lower. Obviously, these bottom grind spots are going to be like newer player grind spots, right? So Proddy Cave or Tooth Fairy Forest. You can see the AP and DP requirements. So yeah, it's a really good resource to kind of look at and also kind of see like where your AP and DP range is, and maybe like, oh, I want to go to, or maybe like you have 260 AP or 270 AP and like 360 DP, and you go on this chart and you're like, oh, maybe I want to try out Orc Camp. But how much could I potentially make there, right? So it's a really, really good resource to look at. All right, next important advice here is make sure that you claim your free best in slot T10 horse through the rewards tab, right? So actually, if we go back to my game here and we go to my rewards tab, I haven't don't judge me. I still haven't claimed my free mythical horse, but yeah, you can see you can go here and you can claim it, and that's going to be pretty much the best in slot horse in the game. Now there's 3 of them, but they give you 1 for free. Also, while you're on the season server with your season character, while you're doing the battle pass, you can claim a free T8 horse that you'll want to get, and you can register that through the staple, and that'll be another good horse for you to have as well for like your alt characters or whatever it may be. But getting a horse early in the game will help you progress your character much faster because you can get to other areas faster. All right, so let's go over the horses in just a little bit more detail. So you have tier 1 all the way up to tier 10, right? Higher tiers are going to offer better stats like speed and stamina, and you're going to want to aim for the higher tiers either through like capturing the horse and then breeding it, or just by purchasing it off the market. And so each tier is going to improve the base stats, right? And also it's going to allow you to learn more skills like sprint, drift, instant excel, essentially allowing you to go from like point A to point B much faster, right? And again, the tier 10 horses is the best in the game, but they're also going to have kind of exclusive abilities and also animations that just kind of make them stand out, right? And so the 3 mythical horses, which I apologize, I'm probably going to butcher these, but you have the Ardunaut, which is like the flying mount. You have the Doom, which is the horse that's just completely on flames. And then you have like the Dine, which can run on water, right? And those 3 horses, it's going to require a significant amount of effort to get them. Now, granted, you do get 1 for free, And in order to enhance or to obtain the horse, right, you have to essentially have like 2 tier 9s, a male and a female. And then you have to get a special material called mythical sensors to allow you to breed them to hopefully get a tier 10. Obviously, you're not going to be getting these right off the bat as a beginner, but it kind of gives you like a long-term goal, because at some point you're going to want all 3 T10 horses, because that's going to give you an ultimate horse, which allows you to do all of the skills simultaneously, which will be releasing here soon, or depending on whenever you watch this video, might already be released, but they talked about it in the Heidel Ball. So that's going to be a really nice perk to have, right? And so again, the flying mount, that's going to allow you to kind of just glide from like higher places. Doesn't necessarily allow you to like fly, but more just kind of gliding. Really, really good. That's probably the first horse that you should pick, like the free mount or the free T10 that you get. You probably want the Argonaut or the flying horse as your first one. Then the other one is the mythical Dine. And again, that's going to allow you to kind of run on water. It's also going to allow you to run in the desert, right? So if you try to use other horses, essentially you just go at a much slower speed. But if you have the Dine, that allows you to go full speed, which is really nice. And then the last one, right, is the mythical Doom. And that one looks really cool because it's like blue flames. And yeah, it just looks really cool. That one's considered like the fastest land mount in the game. So really nice, really cool. And it can also replicate itself for other people to use that mount for a short period of time, which is a really, really cool skill. All right, so the last thing I want to just kind of talk about is my UI settings. So I get a lot of people kind of ask like, what is my settings? Because my game just looks really amazing and beautiful and gorgeous. So we're going to go and look through that and also kind of just look at my minimalistic UI setup. So you can kind of see here, like the only thing I really have is down here is my HP, mana bar, and then some of my skills and a couple other things. But for the most part, everything else is not showing. And I really, really like this. Honestly, after playing Chrono Odyssey, how like minimalistic that UI was, I really wanted to try to get BDO to look like that as well. And I just feel like it really helps the immersion of the game. So let me kind of show you that first, is just the whole like UI setup. And so if I go to edit UI, and the nice thing too is like you have presets. So for instance, I can click Alt 2 and that's going to use my other preset. So say if I want to like see the map or if I want to access other UIs, I can click this, boom, now I have everything, right? So now I have this up to the top left, the top center here, the map, all of these kind of menus and systems. Let me go ahead and get my dice here real quick. All right, cool. And I have my chat over here, and you can actually modify this a little bit more. Like maybe you want to just keep this, the chat, and everything else go away. Like you can do that as a preset. But if I want to go back to the minimalistic look, I just hit Alt 1. Boom. Like it's super easy, super quick just to do it on the fly. But yeah, this is kind of my UI setup. And so if you want to like do the different hotkeys, right? So I have my preset 1 as the minimalistic, and then preset 2 has everything. You can see here, so Alt L and B. So if I click Alt L and B, now I could set a hotkey to this. So I have Alt 1 as my hotkey. And so when I hit Alt 1, it's going to pop up this, right? So super easy, super simple, and you can really customize this however you want to. And that's really nice. So yeah, this is kind of my UI setup. Sometimes I do like to have this and my chat on, and then I can hit save and I can save that to preset 1, and then boom. So now I have my chat and this up here. So like if I want to call my horse, I can do that, or whatever, get my pets out. That's super simple. And then if I want to go to like everything where it shows everything, I can go back to preset 2. I want to go back to the minimalistic one with my chat and just this UI up here, I could do that. So you can really customize it. It's really nice, super easy. And then my settings. So if we go to my settings, also when you start out the game, there's going to be a lot of notifications popping up, which actually at the Heidel Ball, they did say that they're going to be turning all of those off at the beginning. So I guess depending on when you start this game or when you play the game or make a character, these might or might not be disabled, but just in case, I'll kind of show you my settings here. So don't have to worry too much about that. So I have my character name on hide just because I think it just helps with the immersion a little bit. Same thing with the HP, you know, just kind of helps with the immersion. So yeah, you can go through this, kind of hide or show stuff, whatever you want. And then alerts. So here's the alerts, right? So if you have any of these on, I would just literally turn all of these off. Like you really don't need any of this stuff. Like, I don't really need that. I don't really need that. I don't even need that or that. Like, you could probably turn a lot of this stuff off. I do like the guild missions, just so like if a guild mission's going on, I can maybe go to that server and help out. But yeah, you can see like only thing I'm probably going to keep is just the guild missions. Everything else I'm turning off. World map, don't really have to worry too much about that. All right, display settings. So this is kind of what I'm running. So high, remastered, and when you do remastered, it's automatically going to kick over to this one. So there's a way to actually change it to the FXAA. So when it goes to TAA, it kind of makes it a little bit more blurry. So I like to keep it on this one, but I think in terms of performance, it's better to keep it on this, but obviously I'm not too worried about performance. And then here are these other settings. So the catch is this setting right here. So when you click this one and then you do ultra quality, it just makes the game insanely beautiful. Like, it's crazy how just changing it to this and to this with remastered, it's mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing. Like, you can just like, it's just gorgeous. But going back to the settings here, so if I like, say if I go to like high, right, this is going to change the settings a little bit. So we'll take a look at what the high looks like real quick, maybe, if it shows. Anytime. There we go. Like, look at the difference. It's crazy, the difference between the two. Makes a huge difference. All right, so let's take a look how you get these settings. So if you do remastered and it automatically puts it to TAA and you're trying to get it to FXAA, see how like it blocks you from doing that? So what you essentially have to do is you have to click not applied, go to lowest optimal. Well, you have to hit apply first. Then lowest optimal, apply. It's kind of stupid. Like, I wish you had the option to be able to just click whichever one, but it locks you out of it. So you have to like do some weird ways to be able to do which option you want. But essentially, now you click remastered. Okay. And then you're going to go back down. You're going to hit this one, ultra quality, FXAA. You're going to hit apply. And then this should keep the settings to where you want it. And again, personally, this is how I like to have it. Maybe you want to keep it at the TAA, and that's fine. You'll notice though, if you do have it at the TAA, it might look a little bit more blurry. And that's typically why I have it at the FXAA. But yeah, I really think this makes a huge difference of the AMD super resolution and then ultra quality with remastered. Whole another level. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, just have fun with BDO, right? When you first log in, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, right? There's like over 25 classes, with most classes having 2 different variations that you could choose from. Notifications popping everywhere. And there's just many different systems in the game that just can be confusing. And I would say, as a new player, none of that really matters yet, right? I went over a lot of different things in this video, but really your first goal is just to jump in, enjoy the game, right? Enjoy the world, try different activities in BDO, get lost a little bit, fail a little bit. And I really think that's what makes BDO fun in the long run. But that was kind of a long video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Sunsets on black desert sky. It's just you and I.